Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you today how to make a case of Crayola crayons out of gum paste. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Alright, to start our box of crayons, I'm going to take some gold gum paste. I'm going to roll it out about 3/4 of an inch thick. And it turned out that this was way too thick. It should have been more like a 1/2 inch if I had to guess, so don't make it as thick as I made it. And I am just cutting out a rectangle, as you can see, just making a rectangle. I didn't measure it or anything yet. I just kind of freehanded it just to get a starting point. I'm going to use my little fondant paddles there to just kind of square it off, sharpen up the sides a little bit. And then I'm going to move it onto a piece of paper towel just because I like working on paper towels because you can drag your stuff around all over the place without it moving. Alright, I trimmed off a little more off of the length, so now it's more square. I did that because I realized when I make the crayons, I want them to actually sit down inside of the box. I don't want them to just be floating kind of on top or sticking out the top. I want it to look like it's actually going down inside. So I made it shorter, and now what I'm doing with that gold gum paste that I rolled out pretty darn thin there, I'm going to make basically a cover that's going to go over top of it. So it's measured out so it'll cover the two sides as well as the top of the box that I've got going there. As you can kind of see, I'm just putting it over top of it. I have the width right. I'm just marking out now the length that I want, and I'm also going to trim off the bottom because it was all crooked and messy, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to put it over the top again, and I'm going to kind of square off the edges a bit just to get a better idea of what it is going to look like. And then I'm going to use a circle cutter. I'm going to find a circle cutter that I like to take out a niche. So I mark it off so that it's still sitting above where the actual box is, the actual square that it's resting on. And I'm going to cut out the center, as you see there, kind of like a crescent. Put it back on again, and then I'm going to mark it out so it's not too tall, just like that. Take it off again. Trim off those extra pieces again. So there's a lot of putting it on and taking it off, so don't attach it yet. Make sure you leave it without any water so you can handle it a lot. And then now, once I put it on, I'm going to fold it over. It's going to make the little edges in the top pop up. And now it has that kind of curved look that you would expect to see in a box of crayons. Okay, now it's kind of saggy though because the gum paste is still soft, so I'm using a piece of folded up paper towel wedged in the top there to hold its shape so it stays up nicely until it sets up enough, and then I can add the crayons to it. You can probably see that I stuck a little piece of dried spaghetti in the one corner as well. That's just temporary, but I put it in there as a crutch because that corner was just kind of sagging and it wasn't holding right, so I propped it up. Okay, I have some dark green here that I rolled out very thin. It's very thin, I might have mentioned. And I'm going to cover just the corner there of the lower part of the lower corners of the box. So I have it at an angle. It just goes up and then around the side evenly. So you saw how I cut it there? Once I got a nice size that I liked, I'm just going to put it on another piece of the same dark green gum paste and use that as a template. So just copy and paste, right? So trim it out carefully, put my original one back on the corner, make sure it's nice and neat with your knife if you need to. Do the same thing on the other side. Put it up at the edge, make sure it's nice and sharp and the corner touches where the edge of the box is, and wrap it around. Trim off any extra, good to go. Okay. And also this is kind of like a little hindsight thing too, because I've never made this before. I was just really seeing where I ended up with it. And I am happy with it, but I definitely could do better next time. And one of the things I noticed was my corners, once I put that overlay on the outside of the gold, it lost its sharp edge that I had from the original box. So maybe if you guys decide to follow this, try to get your edges nice and sharp. I didn't take the time to pinch the corners or anything. I really should have, I like looking at it now, it's like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. So yeah, do better than me. Okay, moving on. I got light green stripes now going up. The stripes are a little bit thick, I think. It could have been a little thinner, but the same idea. They just follow the dark green. And now I've got two very thin and skinny light green stripes that go up from the center and then around and over each side. just trim off any extra. I'm just using my knife to separate them a little bit. I tried to keep them nice and close. And I realized my box is really long. Like, I probably should have measured an actual box or something. But I didn't. I just kind of threw it together again to see where I'd end up. So I had to trim off some at the bottom. It was just too long. And if you look at a Crayola box, the green doesn't come that close together at the bottom either. So it kind of helped. And that was a red circle that I took little nicks out of to make the number 8 at the bottom of my box. I used 2 little balls of gum paste and smushed them, and then hollowed out the center with my little swizzle straw I nabbed somewhere, coffee hour maybe, something like that, and made an 8. So there you go, kind of cheat, a little cheat code there right for you. Now I am taking some more red, and I'm going to put the ribbon that's on the box on next. So I'm going to start with my rectangle. I'm going to make it go, maybe halfway across the box, but it'll be centered, so you won't have to really see that part. And then I'm doing the 2 ribbon edges and folds on the end. So I cut the fork out of the bottom, like the little triangle out of the bottom, and then I cut a little square out of the other side so that now it will fit up to it. See how I did that? Does not look sharp. I was all pleased with how clever I am here. And just do the same thing on the other side. Cut out a little triangle for the forked end of the ribbon and the little square out of the one other corner, and it'll tuck right up under that main part. And it looks really good. I was very happy with that. Okay, this part, I will admit, doesn't look so good. I wasn't sure how I was going to do the letterings, and so I just kind of threw this part together and then was like, oh yeah, this is working. I'll just keep going. So I'm just taking white gum paste. This is, again, all gum paste, and I just made some letters out of it. I just rolled it really skinny, just between my hands, roll it really skinny. I flattened out it a little bit so it wouldn't be quite so puffy, and then kind of trimmed it thinner, tried to make it, kind of look like it's supposed to. It didn't come out that great. It's okay, it's okay. I don't think any kid, if you put this on their cake, would cry if they saw it. However, you always judge yourself the hardest, and this is not, the best example of my talents, shall we say. But it is okay for now. It gives you the idea. This is just a representation of what you should do. Yes, we'll go with that. Now, I put all my lovely letters that I made on a red background, and I'm kind of I'm trimming around it so it's more just outlined, and yeah, so yeah, looks great. Doesn't it look good? Okay, moving on. All right, I'm taking a little cheat here, and I wrote preferred by teachers on the red ribbon with a black food coloring marker. It's supposed to be in white. I don't have a way to do that, so I'm just cheating and doing it in black. This yellow, it's not gold, it's actually yellow, is going to become the background for the Crayola name itself. I am just trimming out the size of the name, so when I make the letters for Crayola, I'll know how long it should be and how tall it should be. And then I will kind of trim around like we did with the red at the bottom with my beautifully crafted crayons word, and go from there. So Crayola, just using the dark green from those corners at the bottom. Again, just rolling them out real small, real small and thin, and just shaping the letters. Fortunately, this is lowercase, so it fits together a little bit easier. And I am putting it on top of my yellow that I covered with some plastic wrap because the red really dried out before when I was doing the letters and everything, so trying to avoid that with my yellow. So I'm just putting the letters on top of it so I can see where it all lines up and make sure it's all just beautifully done. Again, roll it out nice and skinny, nice and thin. I guess you could try writing it. If you had like a dark food coloring marker, you could try that approach, but this is just what I did. So once I get it all together, I'm going to then transfer it onto the yellow itself, securing everything with a little bit of water so it doesn't move on me. And once I have it all put together, all nice and neat, I'm going to take my knife and once again just trim around it, just so it's an outline around the letters. It's not like a glowing background or anything. It's more like a glowing aura, I guess you could say, around the word. And once that gets all trimmed out, it's going to go right on top in the center of the crayon box. See? Ta-da! Just like that. Now again, if you look at crayon boxes, you're going to see I got some differences here. I have left a couple things out because I just noped at them and decided they weren't going to happen, honestly. So, this is just what I did. It looks nice. It really does. I gotta say, I think it looks nice anyway. And again, no one's going to be like, nope, get that off my cake. That's garbage. But if you are much more patient than me and much more skilled than me, keep going. Take it a little further. You could see like the little happy face underneath the crayon mouth that shows the crayons through a little window. You could take your time more with the crayon word itself, which I'd recommend anyway, because mine kind of looks like hot garbage. And yeah, just little things like that. Anyway, okay, now I made the flap that goes, the back flap of the box that folds over the top to close it. I just made it nice and curved at the top. I cut out a couple little ridges so it would go around the edge of the box there. And I made pressure marks. I'm just making pressure marks. I'm not actually cutting with my knife. I made 2 of them. I folded it up and over so I'd know where to bend it. And now it actually folds over. So if you were so inclined and it didn't dry and become hard, you could close this box of crayons and it would function properly. So yeah, that's kind of fun. Now this is where I had messed up earlier. I had said I made it too thick. It's too thick, so I'm using a very long, thin razor blade that my husband happened to find somewhere for me. And I just sliced down the back and trimmed it off, made it a lot thinner. It was definitely worth doing. So if you do this, make them thinner. All right, this is how I made the crayons. I chose an 8 box because I didn't want to make all the different colors that there are. See, there was that long razor again. So I'm starting with just an 8 box, so there's brown on the one side, and I'm going to work my way over. So whenever you're making the crayon wrappers, just add whatever color you're doing, add white to it, like a lot of white to it, and that will lighten it up and it'll work. So this is brown, so I got a kind of a beige color going. I rolled it out. You saw me hold it up to an actual crayon that I got to compare. And then I used the real brown, cut a small circle out that I have a bunch of little cutters, and I held one up to the crayon and found one that matched it very nicely. I was actually impressed. So anyway, I cut out the brown there, stuck it on the end of my paper color, make a cone out of the brown as best as I can between my fingers, and I'm going to trim off both the ends so that it's as flat as it can be, because new crayons are so nice when they have that nice sharp flat edge. They just look so nice. Stick it on there, so basically making little traffic cones, I guess you could say. And then you see how it slides in the box? Pretty awesome, right? All right, I'm making red. Now I did the same thing. I added some white to the red to make that off color. I used my little circle color to make a true red circle. Stick it on there. Take a little more red, make a cone out of it, trim off the 2 ends so they're as sharp as you can get them. Add water to everything to make it stick together. And there you go. You got your red crayon. Now, match it up. That's real important. Crayons are so perfectly, beautifully matched when they're new and in the box. So I'm trying to match everything up to my original brown. If I were to match it to the red, then match it to the orange, and then match it to this yellow, you're going to really start to mess up like the telephone game, it starts to lose its true origin. So I keep on referencing that brown. So I made brown again, then the red, orange, yellow. I've made it to green. I'm going to do purple, and then I'm going to make a blue. Again, I just keep referencing them all back to that original brown as best I can. And last but not least, I'm going to make black. Now, I am going to put them in the box. Now, I'm going to put them in order, kind of going in reverse because I pushed them all over. So that's why I did the black and then the blue, then the purple. Put them all over, and there you go. And you see where I said match them all up as best you can so they look nice and symmetrical in the box? That right there is why. All right, we got one more little detail here. I am taking some black gum paste. I rolled it out as thin as I could. I put a lot of Crisco down first, I gotta tell you, so it would not stick. When it gets real thin, it can become very sticky. So I made a thin rectangle. And now I'm doing a center cut down the center of, down the middle of it with a wavy line. So now it's going to be flat on the one end and then kind of rippled in the center. And I'm going to lay it over the top of my crayons, as you see. And I'm trying to be careful to show a little bit of the paper color between the crayon and the black. because that's just how it looks. I'm using some water to press it all down, trim off the edges. I'm using my knife blade to carefully press down between the crayons. And that is going to be like that black label marking, you see? Now I'm taking the other side, I'm matching it up so that it's all wavy together, but separate them, okay, so that the color shows through. Again, trim off the extras and make sure it's all nice and straight. Again, press down between them, and if you cut it, which I did because I wasn't being careful, I had to patch it a little bit. But once you get it all done, all nice and neat, you have a super cool little box of crayons. So yeah, it's pretty, it's colorful, it's easy, it's very versatile for your cakes, and not too shabby, right? So I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe because that really does help me out. I've got a lot of other videos out there, so if you have a moment, take a look, see if there's anything else you'd like. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.